back to the square. I am your host, Curtis the Fifth.
And I am Curtis the Fourth.
All right, so today we just wanted to do a quick little mini-sode, if you will. Just want to dip our toe in the NBA world a little bit. I know we've been teasing it for the last few weeks now, so just wanted to dive in, start talking about it. I know we're a week late, but NBA trade deadline has come and gone. And so we want to talk about some of the deals that we felt were pretty significant within that heading into the second half of the season here as we're getting things underway. So let's just go ahead and dive right into that to start off. I mean, what do you got number one up for your? I guess what is your biggest deal of that trade deadline day last week?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go far. It has to be the Bulls. They made the biggest splash. Definitely
Fair
with
enough.
this Nikola, Vucevic, and grabbing this guy, basically really for pennies on the dollar. Wendell Carter Jr. Really.
Yeah, I was not upset with Wendell Carter getting shipped off, and then we do have to give up 2 first-round picks for him. I say we as I guess I'm a quote unquote Bulls fan, but I haven't been like hardcore into the Bulls. But that's neither here nor there. Really, what it comes down to, I think giving up those 2 first-round picks are really insignificant because we have been missing, or the Bulls have been missing on picks left and right. I know Pat Williams hasn't kind of fully panned out yet. Lauri Markkanen, I was really high on him when we first got him. A little bit, kind of now I'm just like, okay, he could be a role player, he could be a starter. It's depending on the situation that he's in. Kobe White, I still have some hope for, but I mean, across the board, I haven't been just completely wowed by our first round picks over the last few years. So I'm just like, okay, let's get a star in Vucevic, another guy to roll with Zach LaVine and a big man. Zach LaVine came out and said he really wanted to play with a big man, as an all-star big man, and they played together in the all-star break. So I think that was a huge pickup for the Bulls in making sure that they can kind of solidify that they're 5.
Definitely. And like you were saying, these 2 future round first picks, not necessarily going to be a big loss for Chicago because they're not knocking them out the park with the first round picks. These are not necessarily outside of pure luck of being a cornerstone pick anyhow. So we're getting a sure thing in Vucevic. I'm gonna keep saying Vucevic. And and he's proven, now you teaming him up with Zach LaVine. We got, a dynamic duo. I dare not say we have a big 3 of any sort,
I mean,
but we
depending on how Pat Williams or Kobe White come on, going back to last year, watching the Bulls I think at a time where Zach LaVine went down for a little bit. Kobe White kind of came into his own. He started kind of finding his shot, kind of fine tuning his game a little bit when it came to just kind of demanding that one position. And if he can continue to develop, he can definitely get there. But I think it's really just kind of determining on which one of these young guys is going to step up and either be that third option or even come up and be even the number 2. I mean, obviously Zach LaVine's the one, but in having Nikola Vucevic, that's going to definitely help bolster our depth. And we'll get to it in a little bit later with also getting Daniel Tice. But I think that the Bulls really just made sure that they had across the board talent at multiple positions across the floor. So I think that definitely opened up. It's going to open up Zach LaVine's game, I think, a little bit more too. Having somebody that demands to have somebody in the paint presence as well. Because he's he's not dominant per se, but he can stretch the floor and he can hold his own in the paint.
Definitely. And it gives them, like you said, much needed depth that they needed. And man, they got a nice roster right now. So I could see where the playoff push is coming. Yeah, Zach LaVine is the number 1, but Vucevic is easily 1B. I'll be remiss to say he's the number 2 guy. I mean, they're really like a true duo. Yeah. And so it's something Chicago hasn't had for quite some time.
I can't wait to see what they do in the offseason as well, to kind of see what they can do in the free agency market as well, see if they can get maybe a third piece. Like I said, one of these young guys comes along and really takes over that 3 or 2 role, if they will.
Right.
I mean, it's really just depending on the continuation of developing the young talent that we have. I mean, still we got Laurie Markkinen too. I mean, I mean,
Definitely.
we got guys all over the place that can really come into their own if they're willing to put in the work. So I think that was a huge trade there. I mean, and for the Magic, getting back Wendell Carter, young talent, he hasn't kind of blown up or blossomed into anything huge as of yet. But they were really fishing for picks, in my opinion, when they were selling guys off. They got rid of Aaron Gordon, they got rid of Nikola Vucevic, they got rid of Evan Fournier as well
Hmm.
on the day. So I mean, they Magic were in a complete, I wouldn't say fire sale, but they're definitely looking to start rebuilding.
I was
I
gonna
think that
say they're in a definite rebuild
yeah,
at this point because yeah, they shipped all their key assets off, and look like we're starting over in Orlando. However, it's Orlando. I mean, I don't know if you've been to Orlando anytime recently or in the last several years. I mean, beautiful, vacation spot, but to live
for
there,
sure,
I mean, goodness, I mean, like life's not too bad.
not at all.
So even in a rebuild, I'm like, well, give a couple of years, go out to Magic Kingdom,
Yeah,
and go to Universal Studios.
for sure.
There's plenty of things to do in Florida, or get out of Florida, with the pandemic,
Yeah,
one or the other. But I don't see the Orlando Magic's fan base at storming the gates, in
yeah,
disgust at what's to happen, what has happened. And Wendell Carter Jr. Let me just say that I think what the Bulls deal with, which is kind of interesting because they usually are not. They're usually on the on kind of on the receiving end of this, but they were able to land an all star in Vucevic, and basically what they given up was really their project.
yeah,
That's Wendell Carter. I know he was kind of thrusted and thrown out there. I don't think he was utilized properly. I think his game will possibly, based on whatever Orlando is trying to do now in the rebuild, and if he's really going to be a part of that process, I think they can really start to try to develop his game and try to figure out where his game fits in today's NBA.
yeah, yeah. I think that in a way, this is a win-win trade for both sides. Including for Vucevic, I think he wanted to be in a winning situation, or at least a playoff situation. I mean, obviously the Bulls haven't had the most fantastic outlook over the last few years. So if they could figure it out, and like you said, they're trying to make this playoff push, especially in a year where we have the play-in tournament. This allows Vucevic to really see kind of what that side of the NBA is like, because I don't believe, has the Magic even made the playoffs in the last few years. Well,
I don't think so.
yeah, it's, and if they were, it was real quick and they got bumped out fast.
Was not notable.
Yeah, so I think that's one of I think that definitely has to quantify as the biggest trade of the day. And I think for me, I guess the next one up would be the Heat going to go get Victor Oladipo, and giving up Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and then there's a 2022 pick swap. So I mean, they didn't really have to give up too much to go get a quote unquote perennial all star in Victor Oladipo. And just another piece to kind of help fill out that roster. Another scoring option, a guy that can really, he can play defense quite well.
Hmm.
So I really like that trade for the Heat, just getting another star on that roster to help out Jimmy Butler. And then they didn't have to give up any of their young guys. I mean, Duncan Robinson wasn't a part of that deal. What's the other kid's name? Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero.
The fact that they didn't have to give up either one of those two to get Victor Oladipo on this trade, I think that was fantastic. This is a home run deal for the Heat.
Definitely. And I mean, like you said, the most you really had to give up was Avery Bradley.
Yeah,
Which kind of came over to be that extra piece. The way I'm looking at it, well, you're here. You kind of didn't really fit. You didn't do anything insignificant. So let's upgrade it. And you upgraded to Victor Oladipo.
yeah,
Okay, the Heat is in the conversation. I know we got the Nets. And
and the thing for me, especially with the Heat, is they were hit with COVID hard at the beginning of the season. They had a guys getting sat out a bunch. And it wasn't just for a day or two, like it was weeks on end. They were missing key guys in their roster. So now that they finally have gotten to a point where most of their guys are fully healthy, They're able to continue to build on their rotation, kind of feel each other out, get back into that groove. I really like kind of you're throwing in Victor Oladipo into the situation, so you're gonna have to build that chemistry with him. But once that gets settled in, this team, they think they're fourth place in the East right now. They can really contend with just about anybody except for Brooklyn, who has 5 All Stars on their roster right now. So
Exactly. And I mean, so for Philadelphia's, the Milwaukee's, move over. You got,
yeah,
Miami is
watch
there.
out.
Chicago's on the rise. I mean, it makes the East is very interesting right now. Because that is just the pool of contenders have just kind of expanded a bit.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that they're head over heels about to contend for a title, but you can't just single it
brush
out
these
to a
guys
couple
aside.
of two teams and that's just it, and
Yeah,
everyone else is just around. No, there's about 5 legitimate teams in the East now that can contend for a title, and we've seen crazier things. The Clippers did not make it to the conference championship last year, so
no, they
that
didn't.
there is no giving, even for as crazy as it may look, looking at that roster, even for New Jersey to have some kind of playoff
That's Brooklyn
debacle,
now, by
it
the
can
way.
happen. It happens all the time in the league. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised necessarily for some reason in the first year when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and we've seen. I don't think that. I mean, Kevin Durant hasn't even played with even Blake Griffin yet, and I don't think any of them have yet played with Andre Drummond. So, no, not Andre Drummond. Is Drummond the one who went over there, or was it
With the Lakers, LaMarcus Aldridge.
LaMarcus Aldridge? Sorry. Yeah. So having those guys come over, you guys haven't even played together yet, so you got to figure out how that chemistry is going to work. There's only one ball. Who's going to get those touches, and then who the person that's not getting those touches, are they going to be upset? Are they going to be able to buy in? Is
Right.
Steve Nash going to be able to handle all of these egos? I think it's a tough situation in Brooklyn right now. So I think they at this point maybe they need to temper expectations in Brooklyn. I know you got stars, and when you have stars, they're expecting championships. But maybe you take a step back and say, "Hey, we're just filling it out this season, and then next year, if we can re-sign some of these guys to some deals, on some cheap deals anyway, then you can figure out a way to jump into this thing next year with a full roster,
Mm-hmm.
complete chemistry, and hopefully stay healthy for the full year and not have to deal with as much COVID issues as we had this season so far." So maybe that's kind of the route that I think a lot of Nets fans may have to take, because again, like I said, we haven't seen Kevin Durant on the floor with any of these guys
Not at
in
all.
any recent time. Blake Griffin, he's just starting to get back to Lob City Blake Griffin again. He had his first dunk in, I think, in over 365 days or something like that.
How many attempted dunks did he
I don't even know.
have? Have you attempted any
I
up
mean,
into this
there's
point? I
nobody
mean,
to lob him the ball over in Detroit, so there's no.
it's a crazy stat. That's all. I was just curious. Like, what's the validity of that? Like,
Yeah.
is he even trying to dunk the ball? Like, because if he's
I
not,
mean, but
like, who
this is
cares?
what he's known for. It's just
Right.
like the fact that he hadn't done it a single time in over a year. It was crazy to me. Um, so I think Brooklyn has an interesting situation over there. But as we were saying with this Victor Oladipo trade, yeah, the Heat certainly are going to be in contention uh, for this East title when it comes around, what is it, June, when we're going to be kicking things off. Because
Mm-hmm.
man, this team is very solid overall. I like the way that they're looking so far, and if they can continue to stay healthy, I think that they're going to be one of the hardest teams to deal with in the East this year.
Got it. One deal that I it was significant, I think, to me, looking at when you're looking at some of these rosters, and
Yeah,
a deal that makes sense for teams was the Clippers Hawks deal, the Rajon Rondo deal, and
100%.
oh man, the Clippers, a much needed veteran point guard that they needed. Patrick Beverly is over there, but
Lemon
it
pepper
doesn't
Lou,
have to solely fall on Patrick Beverly. Yes, and they traded for who you just say?
lemon pepper Lou.
Yeah, we finna just eradicate ourselves completely from this bubble situation
Yeah,
and the debacle. And I think this trade kind of closes the chapter on the whole just the bubble
we
blow
know
up
he's happy in
experience.
Atlanta.
He has
Uh,
to be. And sending them right. That's what I said. It's a trade that works for both sides.
yeah.
So I mean, I
Well, I
hope.
mean, I just feel bad for Lou Williams. He's been in a situation with the Clippers for quite some time, being the perennial sixth man of the year. I mean, for his entire career, in all honesty, uh, and now he's in a situation with the Hawks where they still haven't figured out their identity with Trae Young being the star there yet. So he's gonna kind of be in that reset mode right now.
I'm a little baffled. I mean, maybe I'm not looking. I didn't look at the numbers closely, but it seems to me that the Clippers could have did this in the offseason, and they could
I
have.
think they tried.
Did they?
I think they definitely tried to go get Rajon Rondo this offseason.
Okay.
Um, but I think Rajon Rondo, he wanted his money. He got paid by Atlanta, and so he was. It was as simple as that. The Clippers just didn't have the money that Rajon Rondo was getting offered from other teams,
Gotcha.
especially not from the Hawks.
Now
So
he got his money. Now he has a team.
yeah,
So minus Lou Williams, of course, but I thought it was an excellent trade. Out of all the big splashes that was going on, then I seen that one. I was like, ooh,
yeah.
that's the one people
I mean,
need to
this is
be
going to
paying
make the
attention to.
Clippers one of the hardest teams to do, especially with the fact that the Lakers they're kind of in turmoil right now. I know they got Andre Drummond as well to kind of help temper things until LeBron and AD gets back, but it, once they get back, they got to get back up to playing speed. And if we're already round one's already in the books, I mean, you're kind of looking at a situation where the Lakers could end up falling into this play-in tournament and potentially get knocked out by one of these hot teams that are kind of, when you get streaky, they can
Mm-hmm.
knock you out fast. It's a one-game playoff, and I think you, depending on if you're 7 or 8, you can either lose one game or it's a one-game elimination. So that's neither here nor there. But the Lakers are in a position right now where the Clippers are coming hot on their heels, and the Clippers are coming to really come out and win this thing. They are, I think they're trying to respond to what happened last year, all the criticism for them getting knocked out by the Mavs early in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And was that this was the first round?
Who is it? Who we talking about?
No, they got knocked out by the Nuggets, didn't they?
Nuggets in the second
In the
round.
second round, yeah.
In
But they
seven.
almost got lost. They almost lost to the Mavs in the first round. If I think Kristaps Porzingis would have been there from game one all the way through, easily, the Clippers were out of that thing.
It was the bubble. I take it for what
Take
it was.
it with a grain of salt, but still, I mean, no matter if it's a bubble, I mean, you knew the expectations going into that series or going into the playoffs in the first place.
Yeah, but these guys' mentalities. I mean, I cannot ignore these. All these guys don't necessarily rise to the pressures, the edge,
And that's fine. And I have
what are
no problem.
distractions.
I have no problem with that.
Mhm.
But when you create it yourself by putting out these ads saying, "I'm the king of LA now,"
Oh, we talking about LeBron. Oh,
no, with the Clippers, when Kawhi came, he
oh,
put out those ads saying, "I'm the king of LA now." This is, yeah, it was a real bolsterous move to come in and say that the Clippers, it's our city now, because they got, sorry, Kawhi and Paul George. And I'm just like, yes, you guys are decent. You guys had a great season last year. Paul George is coming off an MVP trying to be an MVP candidate. And you got to put things together though. You can't just, oh, we make this huge deal and then come in with all this moxie and all this kind of bravado and then not back it up. That's what I had an issue with. You talked all that mess all season. From the beginning of the year, the Lakers shut their mouths. They got to work. They went and grinded the entire year, and you guys came out there and just laid an egg. And you didn't even make it to the matchup of all time, the battle for LA. You couldn't even make it to that.
exactly. Well,
That's what I was upset about.
A 3-1 debacle on top of that. I mean, it was theirs for the taking, and they just
Yeah.
fell apart in the series. I don't know. No one understands what happened outside of a meltdown, but definitely should make LA interesting. They got a very, very nice front court once all the three guys come back. But what position does LeBron play? Let in a matchup in a lineup. He's listed at as point guard, which
but he's being guarded by Kawhi.
Thank you. And I understand this is almost like a positionless league now. But I'm curious to see what their starting five is going to look like. With them grabbing Drummond, and I'm saying this in relation to the Clippers grabbing, they went and got Rondo, so they went to bolster their backcourt while LA went to try to stop the bleeding in their front court because
Yeah.
obviously because Davis and LeBron is out right now, and
Yeah.
needless to say, don't know when each one of them are coming back. Personally, as a personal fan, I hope they hope they stay out the rest of the year. I'm done. I'm just so done with the super team concept or this LeBron James version of the super team.
Well, he doesn't even have the super teams anymore. He's got a legitimate duo. That's it. The rest of that team, what's so super about the Lakers?
I mean, Drummond is a solid.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, these other people they've been talking about, like Montrezl Harrell, who are?
Yeah, they're not. Montrezl Harrell, he's a good role player. He's not. To me, he's not a starter.
That's what I'm saying. He's not that. When we when I was
you're not trotting him out there for 38 minutes a game.
Right. When I was prefacing Big Three, I don't mean who's the third person on your team and he's the part of the. No, it's a certain level of talent that you have to bring, where you're a standalone. You can go somewhere else and lead your own team. You can't go somewhere else and be the number 2 guy or the number 3 guy somewhere. That doesn't count as the Big Three. That's just like you said. They got a Big 2. Drummond technically could be 3, but that remains to be seen with all these injuries and stuff right now. But beyond that, who's Marc Gasol? Okay,
I like Dennis Schroeder. I think I like his game, but he's young. He's still raw. He still has a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who else is there?
Morris, role player. Gasol, role player. Jared Dudley, role player.
Yeah. They've got it's LeBron, AD, and the rest DeAndre Drummond, and it's the rest of it's the crew. Like that. That's all it is. And so for the Clippers, you got more of it. They've had a deeper roster for the last 2 years, and you should have been in that matchup in the first place last year. You guys took your seeding for granted. You came out there and you came out flat. You didn't finish, and you didn't deserve it because you did not play the way that you should have. And I think that it's just we're at a time where I think that the Clippers need to wake up and see that they have an opportunity here. But I don't think that people are going to give the Clippers credit if they do beat the Lakers because of how hurt and with the guys that are sitting out with the Lakers. If they beat them, it's like you didn't beat the actual Lakers this year. You beat a bunch of role players.
But if they go on to win,
they win the title. That's different.
I'm saying, but if the Lakers go on to beat them, with or without LeBron, what is to be said about the Clippers? You lost again. So it's damn if you do, damn if you don't. I think we need to just beat them regardless. If they're in front of us, they on the slate.
And that's LeBron, what I was saying last year.
So be it.
Yeah, you play with what you're given in front of you.
That's what happened in the finals.
Yeah,
because Miami definitely wasn't going in 100%, and it's
Jimmy
understandable.
Butler rolled his ankle in the first game.
Right, and we can go back to come on. We can go back to the Golden State Cleveland saga every year.
And not even that. You can go back to the Golden State Raptors series just 3 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Every single finals almost has this element, and then all of a sudden it comes up.
Yeah.
Well, such and such wasn't. Dude, every year there's something to be said. So with that being said, it all evens out.
And to me, like at the end of the day, you should be praised for being able to make it all the way. I mean, that's a long season. You're starting in September, getting ready for the season, and then you're going all the way to June, July. Sometimes it's July 1 and you're still playing basketball. That's a long season. That's a grueling. And I know it's basketball, and I know there's less contact. It's a different game. Blah blah blah. Let's keep talking about it. But still, that doesn't mean that these guys aren't physical freaks. They are still putting bodies on bodies, and it does tax you when you're playing for that long.
Exactly. And I can understand that part of the concept of the super team. You want as a deep lineup as you possibly
100%.
But and that's part of my knock with it. And this ain't about super team, so I'll stop. I digress. I don't want to get into that. So yeah, it's gonna make for an interesting commentary going forward in the second half of the season in LA.
With Rajon Rondo, I think that's a huge upgrade. And sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I think Patrick Beverley, he does play a huge role in that Clippers lineup. But now he's taking over that Lou Williams role. You're the sixth man. You got to come out and bring that fire. And I think that that actually works better for Pat Beverly than being that starting role, because the starting role, you have to sustain that over a certain amount of time. You really can't. If you can come in and give that extra energy, that fire off the bench, that's going to be huge for the Clips.
And he could be, and he was called to be a little bit more of a playmaker, as opposed to he has playmaking abilities, but he also, man, he's a tremendous scorer. But he's out there also with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and whoever else is in the lineup. You know, whether it's oh my God, what's his name, Serge Ibaka. You know, you know, if he's cleaning up off the offensive glass or whatever the case, it's I think from a rotational standpoint, sliding in a gem like Rondo in the starting lineup, and then letting Patrick Beverly come off and lead the second team's charge makes them a more balanced team now. Which in LA's case, they're stacked in the front court, and like I said, then it's the other 10 guys, who somebody needs to step up today, and I'm like, that's fine, and it does work, but I think LA is in position once again to be that team that can knock them out. Not and that's along with there's a list of other teams. You have your Utahs and your Denvers, and it's.
Well, let's get into the one that I think.
Go ahead.
I think this was one of the sneakiest big trades of the day, and that is JJ Redick heading over to the Mavs from the Pelicans.
Say more.
So, for me, you got Luka Doncic. He's your number one scoring option. You got Kristaps Porzingis. He's your number two. He's your defensive presence. He's your post presence. He can stretch the floor as well on the offensive side of the board. They needed shooters. And JJ Redick is a knockdown shooter. I don't care how old he is. I don't care how slow he is. I don't care that he doesn't play defense. I mean, and that's not even true to me. I think he has underrated defense as well. So for him to be able to come in, and whether he's coming off the bench or he's in the starting lineup, being able to be that guy standing in the corner to knock down a shot when you absolutely need it, JJ Redick completely changes, I think, the scope of what the Mavs can actually do in this playoff run. Because I think that was one of the biggest things in that Clippers series. It was just Luka hitting shots. They really didn't have anybody else who can come in and just be a knockdown shooter. I mean, Luka had one of the nicest buzzer beater threes in the bubble last year. So, excuse me. I think JJ Redick coming in and taking some of that pressure off of Luka being the sole scorer on the offensive side of the ball. JJ Redick is going to really open up, I think, Luka's games, Kristaps' games, and just take the pressure off of those two on the offensive side of the board, and then being able to, like I said, be that kind of underrated defensive guy in the front, in the backcourt anyway. He's definitely going to be huge in Dallas.
And he got the two Michigan guys to back them up as your role players with Trey Burke and Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
So, man, that was a solid move. I don't know if you remember this, man. Chicago was after JJ Redick back when he was in Atlanta, but he was a restricted free agent, and Atlanta matched it. I was like, and so we ended up.
I love JJ Redick,
and that's when we ended up with the Kyle Korver.
Gotcha.
Let me stop. That's not when we had Kyle Korver. We were trying to replace him.
Okay, this is towards the end of Kyle Korver.
This was like in the second year, because
gotcha.
Korver came, if you remember, he just couldn't necessarily knock down the big shots at all in Chicago until we traded him. Kyle Korver shows up again. I'm like, what?
Well, he was decent with us for a while. He had about 2 years where he was like, okay, if we need a shot, we can get it to Kyle, or we can run it through our star.
I never felt it flowed with their winning success. Like, he had his moments, but I mean, collectively, just from how I remembered it just in the biggest moments, he did not show up, and that's for me. I'm like, okay, this is what you do. If you can't do that, then I mean, because we had to, we was a part of the constellation of the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh sweepstakes, and
don't
what
get
was
into
left,
that heartbreak.
We ended up getting Carlos Boozer and Kyle Korver, which two Utah guys, and that was fine. But I was not impressed, especially with that first year. I think by the second year, I didn't care. So because at that point that's when we went and got the Bulls went and got Paul Gasol, and they was trying to changing the face of okay, we got Gasol and Boozer. Why do we get Boozer if we're gonna get Gasol? Well, we didn't know we were getting Gasol, and we had to settle for Boozer. in the succession of things, there was no one else left.
Yeah.
Is this not now sounding familiar to something else right now?
I'm not getting into it. Let's move off. No, but I think
Moving on.
JJ Redick.
But but that was just a fun fact about JJ Redick. The Bulls were trying to get him, but they couldn't land him.
Yeah, but I think JJ Redick really brings just a new level to the offense and a little bit more depth to the defense of Dallas to kind of bolster their roster. Again, this is some more depth, and I think all they gave up James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, and a second round pick. Honestly, to me, the JJ Redick's value is so much higher than that, and they got Nicolo Melli back as well. So,
how do you see this? Is Redick a starter? Is he coming off the bench?
I don't care. Wherever he is, you can have him come off the bench if you want to start Tim Hardaway, or if you want to just have that spark right from the beginning of the game, take that pressure off immediately. Cool. Have JJ Redick
and Luka at the same time. That's why I asked. I'm like, man, I wonder if they're gonna make him like the 6th, 7th guy.
But that stretches the floor so much for him. I mean, you got Kristaps in the paint. You're stretching the entire defense across the entire floor. If you've got JJ Redick out there as well, and that takes so much pressure. You can't triple team Luka anymore.
Right.
You absolutely cannot, because you have to watch Kristaps, and you have to have at least one guy on JJ, because he can hit a shot from anywhere. So that's going to be that's why I think this trade is so big for Dallas. I think that this really makes them a really tough contender, especially with the Lakers being down right now. The Nuggets are in flux. They've got to figure out their chemistry with the guys that they have on their roster. They just got rid of Gary Harris and RJ Hampton to get Aaron Gordon back, and we'll get into that trade in a little bit. But for them, they're in a really weird spot. The Clippers got to figure out their whole situation as well. I mean, who else in the West is really kind of competing against Dallas in them? I think Dallas is one of the sneakiest, like kind of one of these sleeper teams that can really come in and wreak havoc in the West.
Oh, I agree. And like you said, the Dallas with the Clippers, I mean, only other two teams that we, like I said, you about to go into Denver. Denver will be that other team, and Utah. And
Utah as well. I mean, Utah. I don't know if Utah's kind of. I mean, obviously they had a great first half of the season. They're number 1 in the West. Cool.
Not feeling them to continue this.
It just, for me, the way that they kind of fizzled out in the playoffs, I know it was all Donovan Mitchell. It was all Spider. Like, it had to be him and nothing else to even get to the game 7, and then you still lost against the Nuggets. So it's not that they don't do it for me. I just don't know if they've done enough to get over that hump.
Well, I see what I've seen. If I looked at just history and how natural progression.
Yeah.
Okay. What you just said is fair. They faced Denver, hit a buzzsaw. They were looking great, and then boom, they couldn't get past Denver. Okay, we're in a new season. They've been the number 1 team.
Yeah.
They basically, have just been looking at everybody in their rear view, Denver included. It's kind of like natural progression will say if they was to meet this year, Utah should have their number. Not necessarily a guarantee, but they're doing exactly. It's not as if they're 4 games behind Denver.
Yeah,
they're
no,
ahead.
and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
that
they haven't had that progression. It's just I don't. It's to me.
I know you want to. I need to show me.
Yeah.
And it's
well,
Utah.
There's that, but it's also the playoffs are just different. It's just different, and that's the reason why. Like, I typically don't watch the first half of the season, because I like the playoff atmosphere.
And I
like
give you that. It's just you gonna have to miss me at the bubble though. Because of the bubble element, and you got
to take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to the bubble,
like,
and I respect
see
that.
Past that,
But I mean, even before that, they weren't able to really get past the Pacers. True, but I mean, for me, I don't see anything different from what it was before. It's Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert shows up a couple of times throughout the season, but he's not really a number 2. He's not really a number 2 scoring option, for one. And who else do you got down there to really take the load off of Donovan Mitchell?
Oh, that's well.
You got to have another guy. There's got to be somebody else. They don't really.
Mike Conley.
Miss me with that.
I mean, man, you can't with that contract. You gotta be. And he still the highest paid player in the league.
I don't think anymore. No.
Second, third. He's in the top 5. And I'm like, when I last look, who the hell is Mike Conley? We know who Mike
I
Conley is, but
no
come on.
disrespect. Like
But his
that's a
contract is
huge
just
contract.
ridiculous, man. But where yeah, he has Mike Conley, so I don't know what else to tell you. But with that, and they got Rudy Gobert, and that has seemingly been more than enough. And I know what you're saying. When the playoffs come, these guys might shrink. I know you didn't say that specifically, but
They might.
that's what ends up. That's what end up with. Exactly. It's like these distractions and the pressure, and all of a sudden now
The
the
players are just
magnifying
different.
glass, and okay, y'all got everything to lose because you got home court advantage now. Remember how
Yeah.
great it was in the regular season? Now you're the target,
Yes.
and now you're the one seed, even though you beat the Lakers to the one seed. Okay, great until you meet them in the second round. If they the four
They might
seed,
have to meet him in the first round, depending on what happens.
right. I mean,
With
they mess around and be the worst eighth seed ever. I'm
yeah,
like, man, no, we forfeit. I'm not playing you in the first round. Get out of here. Like not fair because you know what's going to happen if these guys sit out throughout the season. It doesn't even matter. Whatever day the first day game of the playoffs, that is going to be their return date. They coming back
Yeah.
for game one. There's not going to be no we'll see about Davis sometime later in the no. They're all going to show up for game one and ready to go, whether they're 100% or not. And we've seen this before. So for you to understand what you're saying, I guess in their case they didn't necessarily have to deal in the trade in the trade
Yeah.
deadline or the trade or in trading at all, and they're gonna run with what they got. They have the success is there. They didn't feel like they really needed to tweak anything.
Yeah.
And well, we're gonna see if this works. I mean, but they're in a fine position to do that. I would say if it was virtually any other team, I would have probably been like, okay, why didn't y'all get involved in
Yeah.
any of this? And there's a few teams out there where I'm just kind of like, so you just go with what you got, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So I can see that your organization is just
Well, there's a lot of
cool with
teams.
being
Yeah.
where you are, and just being relevant. I guess we don't play for relevancy; we play for championships. But
Yeah.
I know all franchises do not necessarily that's their target every single year. I mean, that's everybody's goal.
Yeah.
But seriously going after that in the short term. And some of these teams are obviously just not in position for that. But man, at least look like you're trying. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, but like I said, I think this really puts the Mavs on the spot here, and it really gives them a foot up with JJ Redick on the offensive side of the ball. I think I can't wait to see how this progresses and how this kind of meshes together. But one thing before we move off of this trade, for the Pels side of this, the Pelicans, to me, I was kind of shocked that they didn't get rid of Lonzo Ball this year.
I don't think they could unload him. They were trying, but they just I don't know. I don't think they got the deal that they.
What were they
looking
for? Like, what possibly were you looking for to get
I'm
back?
not. I don't know if they were just looking for a particular. That's the thing that's been out there. My guess is they were looking for a specific amount of assets to come back, and I don't think they got the deal they were looking for. So, based on, I think they were in a position where they didn't feel if the deal did not really wow them, they were not going to pull the trigger. But
maybe not.
Definitely trying to move them, but yeah, and I'm thinking more so if they're gonna revisit this in the off season.
Yeah.
So, but for right now, well, Alonzo, I mean, just play your heart out, bro. Because your time
I like
is short.
his game, and I think that he's been definitely progressing. I mean, he isn't behind Markelle Fultz anymore to me. I think he definitely has shown what he can bring to the table. Defensive guy who can really be kind of he's a great facilitator of the ball. So I mean, I'd like to see him go play with his brother down in Charlotte.
Oh, that would be so nice.
For him to be able to distribute the ball to LaMelo, oh my goodness, that would be ridiculous.
I wouldn't necessarily think that's coming out of left field because Jordan has had some really interesting moves in the past. And
yeah.
This could definitely be one of them. I'm like, why not, man? Play to it, and I think it would definitely help. Charlotte is definitely moving in the right direction, and now that his brother is out, well, I mean, he'll be back next year. But
yeah,
I mean, why not? I'll at least make an offer, put something out there. But spark some type of interest and some relevancy back in Charlotte. I mean, which they've been looking good the last few weeks, and so they're interesting. But I like that. I did like the idea,
and he could bring some defensive depth to them. I think again we're underrating these point guards like their defensive presence. Lonzo actually plays pretty solid defense,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean his numbers may not be up there with the rest of them, but he does bring a presence where he makes it a little bit scrappy out there for you. You're not just blowing right past him like it's not a James Harden situation.
Yeah, so I can see that they're when you was asking what they're looking for, they're probably looking for another point guard, obviously. But that, like I said, I don't think they got the package that they were looking for. So
If I was Charlotte, I would have traded Terry Rozier for. I mean, Terry Rozier, you get Alonzo back and probably a couple more picks. I would have taken that in a heartbeat.
definitely would help. Because I mean, the Pelicans, they're a young team. They got, you got your Brandon Ingrams, Zion,
Yeah.
and you start there, and I mean, of course, Eric Bledsoe, and you got those three guys.
Yeah.
I mean, go from there. Josh Hart, it's you got a nice little nucleus. So I would, why not? But again, I think they're looking for the right deal at this point.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean, after you've traded away Anthony Davis,
Yeah.
you need to proceed with caution because this like the next move is like that's your career. That's like career moves at this point.
Yeah.
And that might be your career.
Yeah.
You make
For
the
sure.
wrong.
No, I
wrong
I
decision.
respect that. What else you got? I mean, there's quite a few deals. So I mean, what else you see on your paper there?
Oh, not a significant one. I like some of these smaller deals.
Yeah.
Because I like the Gary Trent going to Gary Trent Jr. to the Raptors.
Okay.
Yeah, Gary Trent Jr., yeah, Duke Blue Devil, one of these one and done players, but come from Minnesota, so he's kind of a homer over here. So
Yeah.
I've just been kind of watching him from afar, but I'm watching him from afar in the most pessimistic way because I already knew he, like most of these guys, you're not ready to jump and make the leap. Yes, somebody will draft you, and they're gonna give you a rookie contract, and they're gonna give you those 3 to 4 years to do whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
But in more times than not, especially from Duke players, and it's just the kind of players that Duke have been in the past, have they cultivated. And I can't really say this in a one and done because they're only there for 1 year.
Yeah.
But those are not usually your cornerstone players. They're usually your solid um your solid role players. Outside of what I mean, granted, outside of your what do you call it? Your Grant Hills. It really was no one else from Duke. They were all just role players, but very solid ones like Brandon Ingram. He very
Redick.
JJ Redick. What's his man? Why do I keep losing this guy's name in Boston?
Oh, Jason Tatum.
Tatum may be the closest thing in between a Grant Hill and what I've been explaining. Like, I don't think can he lead a team by himself? Maybe. I'm still not convinced. Like,
Fair.
Is he the number one in Boston? I know I'm getting into a whole other type of thing, but he's kind of like a 1-2-ish number two guy in how his skill set is set up. He can be that guy, but I don't think you're going very far with.
I think it's what you're saying about these NFL wide receivers. I don't know if he has a dog in him to take over.
See, and I can't say yeah or nay, and that's good. That's a fair statement. Like I'm not sure.
Like I want you to take over. Like I want you to be
Right.
like, this is my team. This is my roster. This is my, like, I am the head of this organization. I am the face of this team. Let's go.
Yeah, and I get he's not passive, but he's passive-ish.
He's
like
he's in between. To me, he's a step above what Kawhi Leonard is. Kawhi Leonard is 100%. I'm a show you with. I'm a talk with my play.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Kawhi Leonard is. And then you got the opposite side of that. LeBron is like, yes, I can do it. I can show you the play, but I'm also going to get you guys. Let's get in the huddle. Let's talk about it. Let me show you what I'm seeing. Let me give you that advice. Let's have that conversation. Let me show you why. Let me tell you why we need to do it this way instead of doing it the way that you were. And I think Jason Tatum is just, he's a little bit too close to Kawhi in where he just wants to do it with his play, where I think he needs to start to turn into, this is my team. I am the leader. They're trying to build around me. It's clear as day.
Right.
Boston wants Jason Tatum to be the number one guy.
Right.
So if that's the case, I don't know if Boston hasn't told him that or not, and that's the reason why maybe he hasn't stepped up, or maybe they have, and he's just, I'm still a 24, 25-year-old. I don't know if this is the role that I need to take just yet, but he needs to step up and needs to take charge of the team because they are clearly trying to make this Jason Tatum's team.
Right.
So I just think that they either need to tell him to step up or he just needs to do it on his own. And I don't know if he will do it under his own volition.
And I'm not sure Danny Ainge is absolutely sure, especially since they had the trading away of Kawhi.
Kyrie.
Not Kyrie. Why did I say Kawhi? As soon as I said it,
Yeah.
because obviously Kyrie was the number one,
Yeah.
but he leaves and it was just next man up, and it's like that's cool, but I don't know if he's that guy.
And well, I guess I say that they're clearly building around Jason Tatum, but they did bring in Kemba Walker. Is Kemba Walker the number one option? To me, no.
No,
Like he's definitely one of the best facilitators. That I think he's a better facilitator than even Kyrie was with that team.
And I think and from what this team is kind of built, yeah, it's built with a lot of good talent, not necessarily ones, or those alphas,
Yeah.
just, and he's very good, and I think he can sustain your team. But if you're looking for that championship level, they're gonna have to add somebody else.
And I think it's clear as day that they're in a situation where they don't have a guy that's an alpha, because if you think back to the bubble, I think the bubble shed a lot of light on a lot of things. And when they were really hurting against the Heat in that conference finals, we heard the reports. There were reporters standing outside the locker room like they are absolutely at each other's throats in there. Something is going on, and I don't know who needed a talking to. I don't know who needed to sit down and really calm down whoever it was, but there clearly wasn't that alpha in the room to say, okay, let's galvanize, let's fix what is wrong. Is it our scoring? Is it our defense? Are we not stopping them? Who are we leaving open? Whose man is that? Are we not communicating on the floor enough? There's not enough of that happening in the locker room or on the bench for that matter for them to sit down and figure it out in real time to fix it. And that's the reason why they got knocked out last year. They were absolutely steamrolled by the Heat last year.
Oh yeah. Oh well. I mean, everyone was.
And that's not to say the Heat didn't have a great roster, but there was a reason why we were shocked, because everybody thought Boston was that team. It's their time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I mean, we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent
right.
there.
So
I don't even know how we got there.
Backtracking all the way from Duke back to Gary Trent Jr.
Oh, God, yes.
Traded to Toronto. It was just a Duke, sidebar. But Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood, both Duke Blue Devils, by the way. It's just. I mean, like I was telling you.
Was he on that 2015 team?
No, neither one of them.
Oh, okay.
Rodney Hood. Oh,
I think Rodney Hood might have been.
Rodney Hood,
because he had to play with Tyus Jones, didn't he?
I said he might. He might have been gone. I'll look it up, but I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
But I definitely like that for the Raptors. I think they got two solid players, and just Norman Powell. I mean, you got any feedback about a Norman Powell?
No.
Going to the Blazers, because it just, to me, it sounds like it's a steal. Overall, it was a nice 2-for-1. I just thought it was a solid deal for Toronto. Not since Kawhi left, Toronto has just kind of been in flux, to a degree. I mean, you got Kyle Lowry, but
yeah,
I mean, I think that's some much needed help that can help bolster, at least make Toronto interesting. I don't think it's going to put them in a race or put them in any kind of contentions or anything, but I just think it was a good building piece to go off of, and then they got the off season and the draft, and then it can go from there. But I think those are two solid picks. So it was just a trade I thought was very interesting personally, because I'm a Duke fan. But I seen, man, they traded for two Duke players. I'm like, oh, not two, Rodney Hood's a very nice defensive, nice little role player. Gary Trent Jr., streaky shooter. I don't think he figured out his role in the NBA yet, but maybe he'll find it with Toronto. So, he's been bouncing around a lot. So this is speaking against this one and done that I have an issue with. But
that'll be our next basketball topic. We'll talk about that soon. No. Speaking of Toronto, Kyle Lowry not getting moved also shocked me. I think the biggest takeaway outside of Chicago making the moves that they did, and I guess Victor Oladipo as well, outside of those big moves that did happen, I think the bigger story with the trade deadline is the two moves that didn't happen, and that was Lonzo Ball. We talked about that,
Mm-hmm.
and Kyle Lowry not moving on out of Toronto. I mean, he was doing press conferences with saying goodbye to Toronto after that game, and we were just kind of shocked to see him
And
not
no
get moved.
takers. And they couldn't get any takers. And I don't know what they were asking
I
for
think that their
specifically.
asking price had to be too high because there had to be guys totally interested in Kyle Lowry's services. There's no way that nobody was making an effort to try to get him.
I I I, I don't know what happened. Maybe the asking price was just too high. But looking at their roster, man, I I don't recognize none of these guys. These are, I
Yeah,
mean, who are these people? I'm just, yeah, it's a brand new team, man. Like this, I who knows what they were asking? They probably was asking for everything, and rightfully so, because that's again, if you can't get the right deal, don't even make the deal. Just keep the guy, and that's
I guess it's
probably,
fair.
I think that's what happened. But yeah, I think
But
it
now
was so much hype
you're
that
not
was
gonna get
built up.
anything back for him in the offseason. He's
Uh,
just gonna walk.
Unless you could convince him in a sign and trade.
I guess you could, but I
I know
mean,
that. I know
for
you.
me, like as an organization, I wouldn't count on that though. I would be thinking the worst. We're getting nothing for him now.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I mean, goodness, I mean, Toronto is not even playing at home this year, so I
True.
don't know how, you know, discombobulated or
Well, it's
dismantled
been
or
a couple of
fractured
months by
that the
now, so
season that is. I mean, just how they operations and like I don't know how they operating. I mean, and maybe
you're
they
out of
moved
that
everything.
Toronto snow at this time of the year. So what?
I guess it's just a lot of weird. This COVID thing. I mean, it's just throwing
uh,
a flux in this season, and it's just like I can't even begin to think what is it? Where are they even playing right now? Like
they're
what
in
is
Florida.
Florida?
Yeah, I think they're playing in Tampa.
Send them. Okay, because of COVID, we don't want you to come and play in Canada. However, let's send you to the hottest spot in the country in the
Well,
world.
it was the only. It's the only state that would like allow another team to come in.
It's ground zero. What are you talking about? It's
Exactly.
the new ground zero. It's
That
not
is
New
why
York.
Florida is. This is a totally different conversation. We'll move off of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
Toronto. I'm like, okay, well, this is how we protect our assets. Send them right to ground.
well, they had to play, so if because I think Canada wouldn't allow them to play.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying all that to say, this is. I think a lot of this has contributed to Kyle Lowry still being there. Like they can't move this guy, and granted, I wouldn't move him for pennies on a dollar, even if I was losing him. I'm not gonna lose you and just give you up, and then I just take cash consideration and you know, and
Well,
and,
you know
and,
they were
and
giving up more
John
than
and
that. Come
John
on.
Joseph. Like who is John Joseph? Exactly. I don't know who John Joseph is.
You know they were giving up more than that. It was not that deal. Jesus Christ.
Whatever happened, they didn't make the deal, so it could have been a cash consideration, as far as I'm concerned. But looking at this roster, where are they at the standings? Like goodness,
I mean, I can pull it up here. It's not good though, and then they're not even in consideration to be able to make it to the.
I have to say, arguably, Gary Trent is the number 2 guy on the team right now. That's why I like this trade.
Well, I mean, they got Siakam still, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They got a couple people over there. I'm just, man. Yeah, Toronto had their 15 minutes of fame, and now that has passed, as you can see.
Yeah.
But they were aggressive enough to get up into the trade at the trade deadline and actually execute a deal, and that's what I found impressive. I'm like, okay, Toronto, at least they're not gonna lay down and take it on the chin.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's. I think Toronto's just in a weird spot. I mean, like you said, they're in 11th place right now in the East. Few games
No,
back.
no, Rodney Hood, no, he was rookie in 2014.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah.
was the year before.
I saw that.
Which I thought I was just had to make sure because I'm like I don't remember on that team.
Yeah. No, because we were. It was kind of back to back seasons with Duke where they were really in strong consideration, and then that 2015 finally they broke through.
Yeah, when they wasn't really expected to, and
No.
that's when they did it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, Toronto is in 11th place. They're 2 games behind the Bulls in the for the play-in tournament. But with what the Bulls did, you can expect them to be close to being in that 8-7 range as it stands right now. As they clearly this team I think is better than what they were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they're really trying to fight kind of from the 4 games back from Indiana, and then you got Miami. They're 5 games back from them. So it's it's going to be a really tough situation. I think Miami is about to catapult themselves really far into these standings as it is right now because of the improvements that they have made. So I mean, it's you're looking at a situation right now where Toronto, you didn't get better. Your team has not been performing anywhere near what people thought they were going to be. It was going to be a perennial playoff team. I think a lot of people thought coming into the season,
Mm-hmm.
especially with them signing Fred Van Vliet um, to that big deal, and then trying to make some moves here or there. It just didn't happen, and Kyle Lowry can't do it by himself. So yeah, Toronto's just in a weird spot where they're not horrible, but they're not good. So
Right.
yeah. You got any other big moves?
Big moves. Let's see.
Small moves? I know you like the little ones too. Anything of note?
Well, I am looking at. Well, if you want to go, there's that the 3-team trade. With the 76ers, the Knicks, and the Thunder. You
Lay it
know,
out there.
well, you got George Hill going to Philadelphia, and Austin Rivers is going to OKC now. So that was the big swap, and the Knicks are getting a boatload of draft picks. 2021 second round pick. Oh man, look at the confetti
Yay!
fly now, and a 2024 second round pick, which is protected if it's anywhere between 31 and 55.
So what? They just can't have the
The
last
30th.
5 picks.
Yeah. Let me see. Does round two start at 31 or 30?
30, 31.
Okay, so yeah, to get like the last four, maybe.
4 or 5 pick. Wow. Okay, that's a weird deal.
I mean, but they get. I mean, they also get Vincent. Oh man, I can't even say these people's names.
Vincent Poirier.
Poirier. Okay, I don't know if it was pronounced that way. Terrence Ferguson, and then the rights to Amir Alphabet starts with a P. Something
Alphabet.
Prldzic. I don't know how to say that.
Fine.
Sorry, I'm not. I've been in no spelling bees. I can't. I don't even know how to begin to pronounce that. But that's how a 3-team trade works. I don't know why the third team always comes in, but it's the third team that gets the deal done. But the third team never gets anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's the Knicks, so they probably got to dump salaries anyway. So really, the big moves were, Austin Rivers going to the OKC, and George Hill, um, another veteran guard, going over to the Philadelphia. And Philadelphia being a contender, it's just bolstering their roster up.
So what
even
you're
further.
telling me is Doc Rivers sent his son away to OKC.
He did it in LA.
True, he did.
2 for 2. I mean, man, I don't know. It's a love-hate thing going on over here.
It's tough out here for these Rivers children.
Man, it's hard out here for them.
No, I just find that to be funny. No, but
I
I
didn't
think
make that connection to you. I'm like, yeah, that's right. He is the coach over
Yeah.
there.
no,
that's 2 for 2.
but George Hill coming into the 76ers. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think that he fits in that offense or on that roster?
I like the idea of it because it takes a little bit of the pressure off of oh my god,
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. And I know that, man, we're in the new NBA, and they, with guards and forwards and now playing the point position a lot. But when you got a pure point guard or a two-way guard that can play the 2 or the 1, that's it's almost something of a relic, but it's also something that stabilizes your roster, and because when the Ben Simmons of the world and the Lonzo Balls and the Zach Levines cannot necessarily get it done at that position, or they're called to be able to have to do all the scoring, and it's going to take away from their facilitating abilities. That's where these guys come in, and that can actually now, they don't have to necessarily go so hard, on the offense, let alone if they've been called to be a two-way player, which a few of them are and most not. But it gives you more flexibility on your schedule. So I thought it was a home run for Philadelphia, and I thought it was a much needed add-on to help them, especially hearing about the Ben Simmons and the Why am I not remembering this man's name?
Joel Embiid.
Of course, Embiid. Out of sight, out of mind, because he's
Yeah,
hurt. And
of course. Oh my
that's
goodness.
the go ahead. That's my point. Go right ahead.
So,
Which
this
is
is
why this trade is big.
for me for the 76ers. I don't, and I guess this is going back to what is always going to be the offseason topic with the 76ers. Do you think that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid can coexist and be 1A, 1B on a roster to win a
I
championship? I mean, obviously they can do it because they've been doing it in Philadelphia, but
I
to
don't
win a
I
championship.
don't believe so. I don't think this is the right combination.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day,
Mhm.
if that's the way that a lot of people feel, like they just can't work together, just because Joel Embiid can't stay healthy, Ben Simmons can't shoot, or he can, he just freaking won't. And that's a whole nother conversation. But
Mhm.
who would you rather build around, Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons?
If I had to take one of the two, I'm taking Ben Simmons.
Thank you. And you are the first person to agree with me on this. Ben Simmons can play. He's a point forward. You can build around him, and if you get rid of Joel Embiid, you are going to get a haul for Joel Embiid. But you're not. The more and more that you continue to say we're going to build around these two, these are two guys, we have two stars, and we're not moving off of it. The more and more Joel Embiid's trade value keeps going down because he's going to keep getting hurt.
And exactly, and he can't stay on the floor. It does not matter what his he has this X amount of upside, and when he's back
I
and he's
don't
healthy,
care. You don't play more than 50
right?
games a
And
season.
that's what I'm getting at. You spending half the season rehabbing to come back to play too much before you get another kind of nagging injury. Then you have to sit out even more time. Now you're trying to get that back together. You come back, then it's re-aggravated. We start the process all over again.
100%.
And all you're doing, all I'm hearing is Ben Simmons getting ripped for he doesn't do this and he doesn't
He won't
do that.
shoot. He can't hit
Okay,
the three.
fair. That's all fine. But that's in the concept of how y'all built this team right now. Y'all didn't make him the number one guy. Y'all haven't said we're going to run our offense through you, through and through. It's your team, and
You keep saying that it's Joel Embiid's team.
and I understand why. And I don't agree. It's just because and it's for health alone at this point. The other point is look at today's NBA. Joel Embiid is a relic. Yeah, he can be that rare thing,
I
exception
think the
to the
cool
rule.
thing in the NBA right now is a stretch 4, not a stretch 5, in my opinion.
No, and now they trying to get he can shoot threes from. That is taken away from what the whole glitz and glamour of why we drafted him in the first place. It wasn't because he could shoot threes. Y'all, that came after the work fact.
Yeah.
Because this is where y'all wanted him to adjust to and adapt to the league. But
not even to the league, to adapt to our roster with Ben Simmons not being able to shoot.
And now you want your center to do. I'm like, okay, so who is our big time power forward or small forward that's doing all the rebounding then? Because this is where Philadelphia keeps coming up short because they can't seem to figure out their nucleus properly. Like I've said at the beginning, I just don't believe this combination really works in the long run. And
it's solely because for me it would be completely different. I would have a completely different outlook on this if Joel Embiid was on the floor for more than 50 games a season. If he could stay on the floor, if he could be game in, game out, play a back-to-back every now and then, I wouldn't have any issues with Joel Embiid. I like his game. I like that he can stretch the floor. I like that he can knock down threes when he can. I like the fact that he wants to be that post presence, and that's one of the issues that they've been having in Philadelphia is the fact that Joel Embiid wants to play on the post, but Ben Simmons wants him to be standing out there so that he can drive in and stop clogging up the paint for him. And I'm like, okay, that is one issue that I do have with Ben Simmons. I want Ben Simmons to start shooting because when he does, he can hit them. He can hit threes, and it doesn't even have to be threes. Long range twos if you want to. I know that's not the analytic safe thing to do in today's day and age, but at the end of the day, 2 is better than 0. So
true,
please shoot the ball.
When they bring in a Seth Curry and a Danny Green, I think they already they're addressing shooting. I mean it's being addressed on the team beyond him.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying that to say this, beyond him and Embiid does I'm never in agreement with this guy out here shooting threes. Not that he can just because he can do it, that does not play to the
I
strength of
would
your
rather
team.
have Joel Embiid in the paint. Yes,
Right,
and
you're
so at the end of the day,
7 feet 280. I don't need you around the perimeter,
no,
standing around
I need
waiting.
those rebounds.
Thank you.
Please get
What?
down in the paint.
Right. Okay. So I guess we're gonna put 6'2", 185 Seth Curry. So we're gonna switch up and let him be the rebounder. Like, because obviously you telling me Embiid can shoot threes better than him, and I'm sorry you can't.
No,
He's a
Seth
Curry.
Curry is the most
He's a
efficient
Curry.
three rate.
Thank you. I mean, and another Duke player, by the way. Just want to throw that out there.
If you didn't catch on, Curtis Ford loves Duke. So,
I don't like the one and dones, but yeah. So I'm more disenchanted the last several years.
no, but this is what I was
Moving
saying
on.
with Philadelphia. It's just I think that they need to bust it up. Send Joel Embiid. Don't trade away Ben Simmons. Build around Ben Simmons in the way that his game is now. You've already started by getting Seth Curry, and who was the other guy that they got for shooting?
Oh, Danny Green.
Danny Green. You already started there. Cool.
Got Tobias Harris.
You got Harris.
Got Dwight Howard.
I think they need to move off Tobias Harris contract if they can.
Probably can't move it.
Yeah, it's hard to move.
But you got Dwight Howard as an insurance policy because we already know Embiid is not going to play every hell. He ain't even like he ain't healthy now. So
yeah,
and you bring in a Dwight Howard, not Dwight Howard from 10 years ago, but it's still a solid piece. I mean, hell, I would take him. I don't care
off the
what
bench.
franchise.
I love him, and you can go out if you're trading away Joel Embiid. You're gonna get a decent. You can get a decent center in return who also can just be a post presence. Or if you're looking to just get more shooters, I don't care what it is. Trade away Joel Embiid. Let him go do something somewhere else because it's not gonna work with Philadelphia.
Right.
It's just he can't stay healthy. You can get a haul back from him. Even if you're just getting a plethora of picks back for him, that's cool too. I don't care, but you need to get him off the roster and start building and put something else around Ben Simmons because it's
and that's where George Hill comes in. And that's why I'm like, I think that was a solid move because if there's nothing else, I don't think they're trying to get away from Embiid at this moment. But if they're starting to think about that, look, you're starting to put the pieces in place.
I don't know if they are. I mean, the moves that they're making makes it seems like they possibly are trying to do that. But to me, from what they've been saying and what I've been seeing from other NBA pundits and whatnot, is the fact that they just love Joel Embiid's potential so much that they might be willing to move off Ben Simmons. And I'm like, that is, if they do that, I'm sorry, Philadelphia, but you're tanking your entire chance of winning a championship.
And for all those years that they just tanked and just took it on the chin and just kept
trust the process. Get out of here with
one first round after the next first round after the next first round. Okay, you hit it twice technically out of all of that, and now one of the two. Here we are at the crossroads. You got to pick one, and unfortunately they don't work together. You all have. This experiment has went on far too long in Philadelphia, and I'm thinking that for Philadelphia to make that next jump, one or the other is going to have to go. I'm not in favor of Simmons going, but you keep both of them there. Good look, y'all going to be a solid second round semifinalist, playoff team. Maybe knock on the door and be that underdog team that gets to the conference title, but then you're going to lose. You're never going to.
Why is going to hit another shot on you?
Because again, you still got them now. You got Miami on your tail. You already you battling out for Milwaukee to see who's going to face New Jersey. Brooklyn, the Nets people. I'm not used to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Moving on. For the Nets, because let's just assume the Nets are there. Just on paper. I mean, granted, they still have to play the games, but
they don't have a lot of depth either.
No, and granted, injuries could definitely take a toll of that as well.
Yeah.
But just from the roster aspect, we're just gonna just slate New Jersey. Brooklyn at 1, and then
everybody else is fighting for that 2 seed.
Exactly. So now you got 3 legitimate squads fighting for that second spot now. In Philadelphia, I'm hustling backwards, and I'm like, I'm telling you, they need to reevaluate this Embiid thing.
They really do.
Get something while you can get a king's ransom from him now, like you were saying. And I'm like, this would be the time. I'm not saying moving right this moment, but
2 years ago would have been the time.
I think they need to start seriously thinking about it though. And if they're gonna do anything else, I'm like, but Ben Simmons, I think y'all need to just look. You need to go down in the ship with this guy, unless you're gonna sit here and trade him for a Durant or
Go
somebody.
Trade both of them if you want to. you could do that, but I don't think you should. I think you if I really wish Ben Simmons would just wake up and it's not even the fact that he doesn't hit threes, it's the fact that he doesn't shoot them. That's what kind of pisses
What is
me
his
off.
natural position?
I would put to me if I was just gonna place him somewhere, I would put him at the three.
Okay.
Just with his size, I think he fits really well there. His defense is fantastic. I think he could stop any wing defender at the three position. In all honesty, and in his offensive ability, the way that he drives, he honestly is the next. He would be the next LeBron, quote unquote.
Hmm.
If that's the guy that you're trying to compare him to.
I remember them. They were making that comparison
Yeah,
when you came out.
I mean, his game is very similar. It's just the fact that LeBron was willing to work on his 3-point game and shoot him, and
Mhm.
Ben Simmons won't. He won't even shoot the mid range too. And that's what pisses me off about him is just the fact that he won't take the shot because honestly you don't have to hit him. At this point it's the fact that they don't even respect the fact that he won't shoot it so much
Mhm.
that they will play 3 feet inside the arch because they know he won't shoot. And if he does take the shot, he'll generally he'll miss it.
Mhm.
Obviously, I mean he doesn't have it's not a 50-50 proposition for him because he won't shoot him.
Gotcha.
So and that's what I have an issue with. It's just if you work because he works on his game or his outside game uh a lot on the off season. You're seeing all these videos on Twitter and on Instagram of
Mhm.
him hitting threes at the park and whatnot. And I'm like, cool. When are you going to bring that into your game? When are you going to do that on the NBA floor? And he won't. It's so frustrating. It's like I'm tired of hearing you do it in the offseason. James Harden, you'll see him doing moves all the
Mhm.
time in the park when he goes to New York and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see it 3 months into the season. He's going to bust it out in a real live game, and he'll work on it. And then all of a sudden, that's the move he's killing you with in the playoffs.
Right.
Where is this work happening with you, Ben Simmons? Because I don't see you doing it. Like you'll hit them in the off season, and then you just do not do anything in the regular season, and you're just completely fall off in the postseason. So I just like it's just frustrating to see that both of these guys they want to be the star, they want to be the number one option in there with the team, but neither one of them like Joel Embiid won't take his health seriously enough to stay healthy for a full 82 game season.
Mhm.
And Ben Simmons, you're always healthy, you're always on the floor, but you're not working on anything. You're not improving your game.
Right.
Obviously, your inside game has been fantastic. Your defense has been fantastic. You're a fantastic two-way wing. But come on, you can facilitate like crazy.
Right.
Let's get the shot finally. You put that together. Ben Simmons could be in contention against Giannis, against Kawhi to be the number one guy in this league if he wanted to, but he just hasn't put in the work. He hasn't finished it, and just to know that he has that potential, because that's the one thing in the NBA you can develop as a shot.
Mhm.
You can't develop size. You can't develop your basketball IQ. You can't develop. Well, I mean, technically you can. You can learn more about basketball, but I'm saying it's
Don't
just your court
generally
vision.
happen
Yeah, it
at the
just
level.
you have those, and those sets of skills are just set in stone. Your shot, that is something that is always able to be worked on. They completely broke down and refixed Markel Fultz's shot.
Mhm.
So like obviously they can do it. He just won't.
Well, I mean, and there lies the issue there in Philadelphia. But with that, again, they did was able to score George Hill, so that gives them some stability at the guard position. I think if nothing else, it helps Ben Simmons' game out more than anything.
Yeah.
Now, I think it can hand it definitely can help Embiid because George Hill could be more of a facilitator, and which can really feed these two guys and make them and find a way to put them to coexist. So I guess I'm a little interested to see what Doc Rivers do with these three now.
Yeah.
Now that George Hill is here, and how they're going to utilize Hill. Does Hill come off the bench, or is he going to be a
I
starter?
mean, are they gonna keep running Ben Simmons at the one then?
And that was what I was. That's the other question. That's what I'm getting at. Like you brought Hill in just to come off the bench, or is he
Yeah.
going to start? Is he going to start at the two? Is he going to start at the one? I don't know. And that's, again, I like the pickup because it was a much needed. They needed a guard.
Yeah.
Now how they use them. that remains to be seen. And that's, I trust Doc Rivers. Granted, you just traded your son away. I would hope you're doing and going to be active behind this, not
Yeah.
just, well, I got rid of him now. Just need to get his contract out of here, or whatever the case. Or my son pissed me off, and I'm just I just can't stand looking at him. I don't know what's going on,
I
but
don't know. There's some family drama here.
and if you say, oh my God, did you see the Thunder's roster?
No, I haven't.
He has punished his son. I'm sorry. It's just.
I mean, I didn't expect too much of it.
I have to look at his contract.
After they lost Chris Paul, they really don't have anything over there.
Nothing. I mean, it's the cupboards are bare.
Is what's his name still over there? Dennis Schroeder was over there, but who's the other guy? SGA. Shea Gilgeous. Shea Gilgeous is over there.
Alexander. Yeah, he's there.
Okay. Well, they got one.
Justin Jackson.
Yeah, it's Shea and nothing else. I guess it's Shea now, and then.
Man, you talking about Moses Brown? Get out of here.
Okay.
Center
Moving
from
on.
UCLA.
Lou Dort. Is Lou Dort still over there, or did they trade him too?
Who?
Lou Dort.
Oh no, he's there.
He's still there.
He's still there. But man, they got a very young team though.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, all these first, second year players. Yes. I mean, Al Horford don't even count. He's not even playing in the rest of the year. Yeah. He's gonna sit out. And the most veteran person they got is Mike Muscala.
Mike Muscala.
Yeah. 7-year player, center. That's OKC.
I mean, they're in a rebuild, and they got every pick in the world.
So. Well, they're good because they need to replace a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, no, they've got a lot of picks, and they're in a full-fledged rebuild. So, and we knew that once they traded away Chris Paul.
But they got Austin Rivers over there now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you traded Hill for him. I guess that if I'm OKC, yeah, I'll take him over him because I mean, Hill's not going to help this team, but Austin Rivers' skill set can,
Yeah.
All
right. Well, you have any other ones we want to discuss?
Quick hitters.
Yeah.
Going back, it was before the actual deadline day on March 17th. On Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day. Trevor Ariza went to the Heat as well.
Yes,
that was another solid defensive piece with offensive. Stretch. Best got a defensive 3, small forward who has scoring capabilities and can get a long range game and can play it on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
When you just combine, the work that him and Victor Oladipo, I'm like, man, the Heat gonna be
Heat are nice. I like it.
I just wanted to just undergird that.
I know they're still under 500 as it stands right now, but soon, once we're getting into that second half, this last stretch here, it's going to change real quick.
Yeah. And what is your idea? What is your thoughts about the Daniel Dice trade?
I was confused at first because obviously we just got Vucevic, so I was like, why? But I'm like, okay, let's get some depth at that position as well. That's fine. I really would have rather us go get maybe a veteran small forward to help with the development of Pat Williams.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, as long as we're trying to actually be competitive in the playoff run here, I like it. It's been too long since we've seen Chicago be competitive, so I really want to. I'm excited to see what this comes of, and with that, I hope this carries into the offseason as well to make some big kind of splash moves in this free agency. I haven't checked what the free agency is going to be looking like, but I'm excited to see what we can do, what guys we can hopefully entice to sign over here, because I think we got some nice young guys, and we got some superstars on our roster now that can definitely help us propel into being getting back to a point where we're another perennial.
And I think this is the beginning.
Playoff team.
This is the beginning of that process.
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I'm excited in the off season, which I have not been excited for the NBA basketball for quite some time. But things have gotten quite interesting over the last year or so. I mean, going back from the pandemic, the bubble to now, I have to say the NBA has been nothing less than interesting for the past 18 months. And with this year, it's like in this very aggressive trade
deadline.
cycle and trade deadline. I mean, man, you don't usually see these many type of trades, and then they all just start coming in at the end,
Yeah.
right before the deadline, which was like, oh my goodness. And last time I was like, we were talking about our talking points. I'm like, yeah, we got about 12 talking points
Yeah.
today. Well, we could have literally talked about 2 trades and kept it moving, but
Yeah.
there was quite a few significant trades that happened here, and some of these teams like Denver and Chicago, they double dipped. Unheard of. This don't really happen in the NBA. This was very aggressive for the NBA. So,
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious about your take, because I'm like, okay, they did this backup trade and got another center, and
Yeah. I'm okay with them. I don't hate it. I mean, obviously Mo Wagner, we kind of flipped to go get Daniel Tice for him, so I'm like, okay, but it wasn't wow, oh my goodness, this is really going to put us over the top, but it's not it's not insignificant either. So I do like it. I think it does, like I said, give us depth. So I think that it puts us in position to potentially make some moves, and again, like I think this sets us up for this offseason. So yeah,
one
well,
thing other than that was the Nuggets also, with, like I was saying, with their second JaVale McGee.
Yeah.
And, I mean, coming, man, getting rescued out of Cleveland.
Same thing with Andre Drummond. I mean, I think they did Andre Drummond a little dirty by making him wait for the buyout market, but that's a whole nother conversation. Back to McGee.
But yeah, I mean, again, and I mean, we already talked about the Nuggets. I'm just saying, that was just one of the last deals I think of note, that given, I mean, Denver giving them some depth that they need, especially when they got to go up against the LAs of the world, you know, whether it's the Lakers or the Clippers. They have a very comparable team where, LA Lakers, LA Clippers, Denver Nuggets, Utah Jazz. That literally, I mean, anything past that 4, I'm like, come on, like you talking about, like, oh, Portland tries to step up. Really, Portland? Good luck. Like, seriously, not gonna happen. Oh, look at San Antonio and Houston's trying to make some. Sit down.
Yeah.
It's these 4 teams, and that's it. That's stop. No, it's not gonna be some dark horse 15 that just steps up. Granted, honorable mention, I'm gonna give it to Dallas. Other than that, that's it. That's
I would say I think
seeds.
you definitely need to keep Dallas in there, because let's just
based on what just happened, that does put them in the conversation.
And I think we also need to wait and see how that chemistry works, if they can implement that a little bit better, like the way that you were saying. Don't know if JJ Redick's going to be coming off the bench, or if you want to have him in the starting lineup and whatnot. Once they figure it out, once they get going, we'll see how they implement it. So
I actually, because his reason, more times than not, and everywhere he's went, he started. So and that's the thing, that's like, even when he went to the Clippers, he was starting. I was like, man, like, guy's solid. I mean, my goodness. So that's why I'm just curious. I mean, because it's a very real possibility where he could be the 6th man, and I can understand it, but that remains to be seen.
100%. So, well, I think we should call it there. Let us know what you guys think about the trade deadline. I know, again, we're a week late, so this is old news for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, these are still big trades, and it's still kind of pretty fresh anyway. So just let us know what you think, and let us know what you think might have been even a bigger deal than what we've brought up here. So,
did we miss any points?
Yeah.
Is something I don't agree with what you said. I agree.
Let
100%.
us know what we were talking about with 76ers and whatnot as well. I mean, do you think that they should move off of either one of their big 2 stars, or are we just completely idiotic for thinking that they don't work together?
Definitely a topic we can bring back up at some point.
That can be a full-fledged episode. Just let us know what you guys think down below. Yes. Leave a comment, whatever you need to do. Also, some housekeeping things before we wrap up here. Go follow us on Twitter at @_square_pod. We put out polls. I mean, we just put out the first 2 parts of our NCAA inspired bracket just yesterday. So go check it out there, and you can see the full bracket. You can also see the individual episodes that we have up now. They'll continue to be coming out as well. And then you'll be able to also vote what you think on that bracket as well. So go check that out there. Just go follow us on Twitter, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast here on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast. And please share, because we do want to be a growing community of sports fans having an open forum discussion. So
tell all your friends, all your friends,
everybody. So again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Have a good day.